Happy Chanukah. 7th night. I love the number 7. Today, I'm bringing you to my menorah. And today, I want to talk about connection. Such a powerful topic, and it's interesting how all of the other 6 so far, everything just ties in together. They're all so connected. They all overlap in so many beautiful ways. So, connection is like literally the cornerstone of parenting, of gentle, respectful, conscious parenting. Connection is the cornerstone. And as the parents, we are the ones who hold the responsibility to create that connection. It's something that we hold. It's our job. And there is nothing, truly nothing in the world that is more powerful than the connection that a parent has with their child. And when we have that connection in a powerful way, our children are so fortified to enter the world and to handle the things that they encounter in an entirely different way than if they didn't have that. And it's just the way we are created. We are created to have that really powerful bond that is something that is just incredibly powerful. That's really what it is. The truth of the matter is that when I talk about connection, I also want to talk about, it would be like remiss if I didn't also talk about self-connection. What I mean by that is, well, it's very hard for us to really connect with our children and with other people even if we aren't able to connect with ourselves. And what I mean by that is being able to take the time on a regular basis to slow down and check in with ourselves and just see, how am I doing? What's going on for me? What's coming up inside of me these days? Is there something that is coming up for me that I haven't really been paying attention to? Is there something coming up for me that needs care, that needs to be seen? And the truth of the matter is that it really starts there. Giving ourselves space, honoring what comes up inside of us. I think about it how, in a way, like, especially as mothers, we do so much for our family, and we really do. We put ourselves into the family so much, to the extent that, in an ironic way, oftentimes, it's as if we actually lose our place in the family because we have not included ourselves in the care of the family. And we may have not included ourselves in, we may be neglecting ourselves as mothers. And how valuable it is to reconnect with the idea that as much as we give to our family, the mother also is worthy, truly worthy of having a place, having a space in her family. And in order to do that, it's about connecting with ourselves. It's about recognizing what's happening for me, and am I taking care of myself too? And I'm not just talking about, the actual physical acts of how we take care of ourselves, taking a shower, brushing our teeth, taking time off to rest. I'm also talking about a mindset of recognizing that we are so valuable and that we matter just because we are, in a not just as a mother. We matter just because we are. It's kind of like what I posted this evening, this concept that we don't use the menorah lights for light because they're valuable just because they are just like us. We're valuable just because we're here. And I think sometimes as mothers, we get lost in the giving and in the trying really, really hard to do everything for everyone. But imagine the quality of how we do things for our family when we've taken time to connect to ourselves and taken care of ourselves, not just practically, but emotionally and mentally and spiritually. So I invite you to take time for yourself and connect with yourself. And what often happens with self-connection is we are able to really connect with our intuition. That intuition that everyone talks about. Sometimes that could be a tricky thing because for anybody who has had any complex trauma in their life, that it could be confusing that they don't really know if it's their intuition or it's their trauma voice speaking. And so the deeper we're able to connect with ourselves slowly but surely alongside healing, we are able to connect to our true intuition, as mothers especially. Here's another interesting thought. The more we're able to connect to ourselves and to who we really are, not everything that we adopted from our lives, not everything we took on, not the stories and identities that we took on, the more we can connect to our own self, the more we let go of attachments to other things, like fears, like stories and identities. And when we are attached to other things, are we actually connecting? If I am attached to an outcome for my child, and in the name of that outcome, I am trying to make a connection with my child, I'm trying to interact and make a positive experience, but inside of me, I'm doing this because I'm attached to an outcome. So am I really connecting? So the more we let go of the attachment to other things, the more that we're able to be the more we're able to connect authentically, deeply, and it's the true us connecting with our child, nothing in between, nothing obscuring that connection. And this is all kind of like a little bit abstract, but I'm pretty sure that it's understandable. And this is, speaking of attachments, it's like to remember to ourselves, nothing, in capital letters, in bold letters, nothing should come in between us and our child. Nothing should be more important than the connection to our child. And I've posted about this in the past, but not their grades, not their behavior, not the way they talk, not other people's judgments. There's like a whole list. I wrote like 20 things. I'll repost it on my stories after that particular post. There is nothing that should come in the way of that connection. And then we're back to the self-connection, because when we connect with ourselves, then we're able to identify and recognize when there are things coming in between the connection, impairing that connection, when there are things that we are becoming attached to. So, yeah. We all have different things that are struggles and become the things that we may be feeling attached to. And with introspection and with self-connection and kindness, be kind to yourself. We are able to work through those and once again, keep that connection strong and unbreakable. And again, the more, and like I said with the intuition, the more we connect with ourselves, the more self-connection, the more we're able to connect authentically, we're going to know. You're just going to know how to connect. You're going to know what your child needs from you. You're going to know what there is that you personally have to work through in order to be able to connect fully. So, you can see how these things are all really very, very interconnected. The connection with our children and the connection with ourselves. It really cannot happen one without the other. What else? I wrote some notes today, most of the days. And in general, like speaking of connection, many of us feel that there's a pressure as parents that the way that we prove that we are succeeding, so to speak, as parents, the way that we feel like we are good enough is if our children are well behaved. If they are compliant, if they listen. But we could let go of that metric because it actually doesn't have much to do with how solid our connection is with our child. It has very little to do. Oftentimes, children who are very well behaved are actually very fearful. And oftentimes, children who are very well behaved, the struggles show up later in life in a much more profound way, in a much more challenging way. So we can let go of the idea of compliance as a measuring stick of how successful we are as a parent and replace that with how connected am I? And when things come up with our child and something comes up and we're not sure, well, how am I supposed to address this? And maybe we're going to consult with someone, or we're going to read parenting advice or watch a video or whatever it is. We can ask ourselves one question. Is this response to the situation bringing me closer to my child? Is it bringing more warmth into our relationship, or is it bringing me farther from my child? Is it going to make my child feel farther from me? And so it's probably pretty easy to know. It's probably pretty obvious if a child is, a parent finds that their child was not saying the truth. I intentionally didn't say the word lying because I think that's a word that sets us up to feel anger or resentment towards our child. So I said, when our child didn't say the truth, it's a little softer way of talking. It's a little more compassionate. So if our child, let's say, didn't say the truth about something, and so we don't, we think, oh, well, I have to tell my child, they have to go into their room until they tell me the truth, till they tell me what really happened. And we just have to ask ourselves, if I'm hearing this kind of parenting advice, and this is what people are telling me what I should do, and ask ourselves, wait a minute, when I'm sending my child to their room until they tell me the truth, is that bringing us closer? It's self-explanatory, I assume. So that's a great question to ask ourselves. Is it bringing me closer or not? That's it. And I think about this line that comes to my mind when I think about connection, and the sentence that comes to my mind is something that we should say to our children, and we should act on it as well. In other words, we should live by it. But also I want to add, it's more than that. It's a way of being. And the sentence is as follows: I will never leave you. What I mean by that is, it doesn't mean that practically we may have to leave our child for a moment. We may have to leave them when we drop them off at school, or we may practically, yes, have to step away. But when our heart and when our soul, and we're connected to that in ourselves, that there is this connection in us that we hold strong, that even though I'm physically stepping away from you, I am not leaving you. I am forever connected to you. I will never disconnect from you. So even though it's words we should say, and we should try also not to leave our child if they're in a state of distress, especially. But it's just more than that. It's much more than that. It's about that way of being, that as a way of being, I do not leave my child. I'm always there for them, even if I'm not practically always able to be there for them, but energetically, I do not leave them. So consider that as, and it could be that it starts with saying the words. That's a way of bringing it into a way of embodiment. That's a way of embodying it, is by actually saying it and then acting on it and thinking about it and saying it to ourselves, not abandoning ourselves either. That's a whole other conversation. So that's a powerful way to start, and it's very practical. If we have a child who's having an emotional meltdown, something is really frustrating for them, and they're screaming and kicking and they're on the floor, and it's a stressful moment in the house where I need to finish making supper, or I'm not able to sit with them physically. I can still be communicating with them as I am cutting my vegetables, and I could be saying, I hear that you're crying, and I hear that you're so upset, and I know that you're there, and I know that you're upset, and I'm here with you. I am here with you. So we're actually communicating it, and that helps keep it alive in our heart. So even though I'm not sitting next to my child, in our soul connection, in our connection as mother and child, we have not left our child. And they hear us, and it helps us embody it more. And that's a very powerful way to bring it into like a real experience. So I'll finish off with this thought that, we can capture connection in the light all the time, but I want to bring it out in like a different way. We can capture connection in the light moments in one way, and we can capture it in the difficult moments in a different way. In the light moments, it's very powerful that when we're able to connect, not just when we have to teach our child something, but when we take the time to spend time with our children in the lightness, when it's a game or joking or laughter or silliness. Yes, I invite you to be silly with your children and just have fun. That's one of the most powerful ways to show your connection with your child, to live it, to strengthen it. And then, of course, there's all the day-to-day moments where we can interact in ways that are connecting. But specifically, the times that are challenging, where something comes up that's very challenging for our child, those are also very, very, very powerful times where when we do not abandon our child in the difficult times, that runs very deep. That goes very deep inside of their psyche, inside of their body. That no matter what is happening, no matter how you behave, no matter what you say, no matter what you feel or what you think, I'm always here for you. I'm never going to leave you. That's what we said before. So, connection with our children, which is interconnected with connection with ourselves, not abandoning our children, not abandoning ourselves, embodying the connection through starting to say it and starting to do it, act on it. These are ways that we can bring greater connection, the single most powerful thing that we can do as parents. The only thing we need to use to measure if we're doing, so to speak, a good job. The only thing that we need to use to determine if a certain parenting approach is going to be helpful for our children. Is this going to bring me closer to my child or not? That's it. So happy Chanukah, and thank you for being here. Tomorrow is the last night. Wow. And we're going to talk about trust tomorrow. Happy Chanukah. Good night.